Over the course of the next 4 Wednesdays, we're going to think about the biblical doctrine of friendship. And I want to do it for a particular reason because I want us to think about in our own lives individually about building up, especially those very, very important spiritual friendships that really help your faith to grow and to thrive. And so what I'd like to ask all of us to do at the end of these lessons is to text or to contact or in some way maybe even call somebody who is a friend or somebody you want to build a friendship with and encourage them, especially encourage them spiritually. And so that's sort of the train of thought for the next 4 Wednesdays rather, as we think about deepening our friendships and following this biblical idea of biblical friendship. So in Acts chapter 2, verse 42, there are 4 foundations of the early church. One of those is fellowship. Fellowship is a word that could include a lot of things in the life of the church. It could include worship, for example, but it could really also include relationship building within our spiritual lives. There was one author, C.S. Lewis, who once wrote, he said, "In your life you meet people, some you never think about again. Some you wonder what happened to them. There are some that you wonder if they ever think about you. And then there are some you wish you never had to think about again, but you do." And that's the way relationships often work. And now more than ever, especially in recent years, we live in an incredibly individualistic society, and interaction with people happens primarily through social media rather than in person. And I want to say we are actually living lives in a foolish way if we think we can live as individuals in society without people. Anxiety is at an all-time high, partially because of our lack of in-person interaction and the increase in social media interaction. God never intended for us to be alone. In fact, the opening creation narrative talks about how God says it's not good for a person to be alone. And so within the confines of the church, being together, it's one of the most valuable things we can do and be. Even Jesus had friends, and he had some friends that were closer than others. We can glean from Scripture that, at least by Paul's time, there were 500 at least, 500 followers of Jesus, very, very close followers of Jesus. Within that 500, we would say that, judging by the upper room in Acts chapter 1 and 2, there were 120 who were really, really, really dedicated. Out of that 120, there were at least 12, especially 12, who were closer than anybody else to Jesus. And within those 12, there were 3 that Jesus often highlighted as his closest friends: Peter, James, and John. And within those 3, there was one who at least claimed he was the favorite. John writes, "I'm the beloved disciple." Well, Jesus had friends, and that doesn't mean that we should, kind of click off and be standoffish or anything like that. But it does highlight the fact that there are people with whom we can develop a closeness. Proverbs, which we'll be looking a lot at Proverbs. Proverbs teaches that you cannot be wise unless you are great at choosing and forging and keeping terrific friendships. And so the first idea we want to think about this week is that friendship is really the only type of love in our lives that's purely deliberate. What I mean by that is that you have romance, and you need romance for friendship, sure, but you also need it for biology, you need it for companionship in life. You have family, and that's about being raised by parents and raising another generation. So there are other reasons for its existence, just like with romance. And then you have your community in which you live, where you interact and you contribute to society. That's a reason outside of just its own existence. But friendship takes a deliberateness and an intentionality. And it's intentionally spending time with other people, or it always gets squeezed out of your life. And so Proverbs 17:17 says, "There are friends who love at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. So let's think about that for a minute. Why would a friend be better than a sibling, a brother who's born for adversity? Well, siblings are going to be there in adversity because they care, yes, but, there may be times when, you are just forced to be with a sibling. And family may be loyal, but they may not want to go out to supper with you. Friend is somebody who has chosen you. Davek is the word a friend sticks closer than a brother. Davek is the word. It means to cleave to somebody. They choose to be with you purely because of their relationship with you. And so, romance, that's also about friendship, but it can't only be about friendship. And so what we're wanting to highlight is this idea that friendship exists just for its own existence. Whereas all of your other relationships, they have other things going on about them. Friendship, one author wrote, is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value, but it is one of those things that give value to survival. So I want to challenge us this week to think specifically about friendship. That if we don't develop it, it's the one relationship in all of our lives that serves no other purpose. And if you don't focus on it, it's going to get squeezed out of your life. And so as we close this session together, I want you to think about somebody that you can text, that you can contact in some way, and encourage them, especially building up your spiritual friendship with them.